What are some R-rated things that probably happen in the world of Harry Potter that the story doesn't address? The implications around love potions and spells are disturbing to think about. Even the books touch on it a little bit with Voldemort's parents. It's a school with 100 empty classrooms and abandoned spaces with hundreds of frisky teens running around. I want to know more about wizard birth control. They've gotta have better crap than we do. You also have to remember that every statue is alive. I read someone else mention this on Reddit a while ago and it amused me. The fact that McGonagall turns into a cat means that everyone has almost certainly seen her anus. This is my favorite answer so far. Someone probably at one point stuck their wand up their own butt and used an illumination spell to turn themselves into a jack-o'-lantern. I know I would. I'm not sure if I want to go to your Halloween party or avoid it at all costs. In the last book, it's mentioned that many of the first year wizarding students had simply gone missing without explanation because of the Death Eaters on the loose. These kids are never found. It's pretty freaking dark to imagine the Hogwarts Express getting stopped and boarded, and all the young first year students getting escorted to concentration camps. It just takes one butthole witch wizard to get away with a whole lot of sexual assault. Who needs a roofie when you can stun someone and wipe their memory after? I've always wondered how many sexual mishaps Madame Pomfrey has to deal with. Like, there has to be male students who tried an engorging charm at one point or another and it backfired. What about STDs? Do wizards have different STDs? Newt Scamander said that muggles have different physiologies than wizards, in context of medications. That said, can a muggle-born introduce a new STD to the wizarding community? There has to be birth control charms or potions, as you never hear of pregnant students at Hogwarts. Is there an abortion spell potion? Is this controversial in the wizard world? Is there a spell that girls can use to intentionally stop a period? I mean, if you can magically straighten teeth or have Skello grow, I don't see it as being that far-fetched. Now Voldemort makes sense. He got an STD which caused him to lose his nose. He was just trying to protect the wizarding world. That's why he was so against interbreeding with muggles. This isn't necessarily R-rated, but it's a bit of real-world thinking applied to the HP universe. Do you ever think about how many people must work in curse proofing? Like, there must be a pretty sizable economic sector dedicated to putting curse blockers on. For instance, basically everything that magical world leaders ever come into contact with. How many leaders around the world do you think were killed by exploding forks or furniture turning into lions or something of that nature? Magical anti-terrorism must be pretty hectic in a world where anything can theoretically be turned into a bomb with the right spell. Even when you're just casually walking through a crowd of magic users, you're essentially surrounded by a bunch of people with guns. They could all kill someone if they know Avada Kedavra. I thought you can't block that curse. So how do leaders stay safe during public events? Then of course there's Polyjuice Potion. Do you think they have a scanner to make sure everyone who enters a government building is really who they say they are? They clearly don't. Very interesting to consider, and it was definitely overlooked as to how easy it is to sew these sort of things. It's somewhat addressed in the legend of the Elder Wand where once you have it, you might be incredibly powerful but someone will find a way to kill you. The punishments are pretty extreme. Azkaban should be considered a crime against humanity. In the Fantastic Beasts movie it was too easy for the main characters to be sent for execution. It also bothered me that the executioners were so calm happy helping someone die. Umbridge should not have been able to use a magical hand scarring pen to punish people. Honestly, it feels like the law in that world has no limits, and I'd be scared if I lived somewhere in which that was normal. Wizards witches have probably committed some pretty sick acts because their legal system is shady. For example, they could torture someone as punishment and instantly heal them, over and over again. Or they can use a spell that forces them to experience their worst nightmares. There could be people who think that a rape case could be fixed by erasing the victims and the criminal's memories, and pretending that the whole event never happened. I never understood how or why none of the professors seemed to be in relationships. Weren't any of them married, dating, fooling around with each other on lonely nights? Or does taking a job at Hogwarts come with implied celibacy? Which is odd. Some of the best witches and wizards of all time taught there. People would have been lining up to marry them. Impressive magic skills. Famous. Plus the purebloods would have had all that money to marry into. But we never heard that. For example, Professor Sprout was the daughter of one of the past headmasters. Or that maybe Slughorn and McGonagall were divorced. They all lived at the castle too. Except Hagrid, which it is made a point he has his own little house on the grounds. He theoretically could have had a normal relationship with a wife there, but all the others had a room quarters attached to their office or assigned dormitories. Hard to bring a date home for the night when you, an adult with a healthy libido, has to dodge around Filch and Mrs. Norris too, else risk having the entire campus gossiping over breakfast. Imagine the Weasley twins catching you sneaking in as they're sneaking out one night. Do you send them to detention, or have them bring up your escapades in front of everyone the next class? Oh Professor, did you get any last night? She was a looker, eh? Never figured you for an ass man. If there is some expectation they won't marry, then that at least explained Snape and Lily a little more. Here you are, this rejected, angry young man, who joins a supremacist movement. But when you want out, largely because of the girl whom you never had might die, you are drafted into double agent work. Then she dies, and you spend your subsequent years surrounded by a bunch of kids and other chronically single adults, never moving on and finding someone else. Then her son, whom she died for, comes along, looking like his douchebag father, and you have no way to express years of rejection and sexual frustration but to treat him like crap when you can. Now I'm imagining what kind of man Trelawney would end up with. Eccentric, but maybe even a muggle, someone who has no metric for how unimpressive her divination powers are, but loves her anyway. Mad-Eye Moody had an eye that could literally see through people's clothes, and he taught in a school with minors. Think about that. No, but he taught. Honestly, given what we see of him, dude was probably too busy jacking to thoughts of Riddle. Memories. When you can transfer them so freely as wizards do, you can live out the sickest desires while never having to commit the crime yourself. Kind of reminded me of Black Mirror season 1 episode 3, The Entire History of You. There was this one bit in the books where Ron was practicing cheering charm spells and did it wrong and ended up being all giddy and laughing and had to be led away for an hour. Charm junkies. There would just be a bunch of wizards sitting in a basement duplicating and transfiguring food and water while spending the rest of the time constantly ecstatic on cheering charms. What flying on a broomstick for hours on end does to a man's parts that must not be named. I wonder if Quidditch players have special protection for their little chaps. I hope so, for sure. Students hooking up. Doesn't even need to be any magic involved. Maybe someone using their potions or herbology skills to make some wizard drugs. I can see Fred and George doing this. There'd be some wicked wizard acid or something. It is pretty clear that the books are all from an over-the-shoulder perspective of Harry, who is in many regards clueless or mistaken. I'm quite certain he, and Ron, simply missed a lot of what was going on. Hermione is fully informed about the boyfriends Ginny had even in her first few years. I assume the whole place is a lot more date-heavy than we know, simply because the perspective and target demographic of the books, of course, didn't show us. Hagrid's dad was an exceptionally short man who nailed a violent, 20-foot tall near human. Giants aren't pretty. Based on the description of Grawp, they look like enormous, hairless apes. There's probably a wizarding college somewhere which makes the antics and hijinks in the wizarding high school look very tame. All kinds of date rape spells, abortion spells, sobriety spells, drug trip spells, fraternity hazing rituals involving human sacrifice and conjuring demons, etc. Now I am wondering how a movie through college years in the Harry Potter universe would be. The Engorgio spell on tea. A spell that can make things big. The first thing a teenage wizard will try it on by the following: their food, their dong, some poor woman's tea, or butt. Some dumb butt kid casts the spell on his balls for a laugh and suddenly can't walk around anymore. Honestly, has no one read Hogwarts? Age's story. Now I gotta. Some of those kids were definitely masturbating to the thought of the professors. And not just the cool hot ones like Lupin or Lockhart. Someone was definitely jerking it to Hagrid at some point. Also, a lot of people are like, oh, all those kids alone in a big castle. They were definitely having sex, but the castle is full of ghosts. I wouldn't want to be having sex if there was a chance Peeves could just float through the door. Not to mention if Snape caught you. Sure, you could go into the one bathroom where Moaning Myrtle hangs out, because nobody goes in there. Except Moaning Myrtle isn't there. She would definitely be a mood killer. That said, I would guess there was definitely some shenanigans happening during Quidditch games and the Triwizard Tournament tasks. It doesn't sound like it was mandatory to go to those events, but everybody including the professors went. So you just stay behind with your boyfriend and do whatever while everybody's out. On the more gory side, Rowling has never fully explained how someone makes a Horcrux, and she has actually refused to tell the public. She apparently told the exact process to someone once and they actually got really sick from hearing the details. I can only assume that beyond just murder, it's pretty gross. Heck, maybe it's an act of necrophilia. Young couples running off to elope and making the unbreakable vow to love each other until death do us part without realizing the full consequences and literally dying if they ever fall out of love with the other. What continues to make my mind whirl is that we only really see the world from England's POV. What's the magical community like in Russia? Australia? We get one little nod of a joke in book 4, the Salem Witches Alliance, about the US. But what about the rest? And Voldemort's rise to power was in the 50s, I believe, shortly after some heavy crap going down in Germany. Something to do with ethnic cleansing, I believe. What did the magical community think about all that? Surely there must be one Jewish wizard or witch somewhere in the world that had something to say about all that. And, statistically, there had to be one, at least one, person that decided to use their magic for gain in the Muggle world. Suddenly the Fortune 500 company with an inexplicable new CEO has its stock prices go up 5,000% overnight. Dude stands there in his glass tower, drinking coffee, looking 120 floors down to Wall Street, using his wand to Axio his iPhone and Lamborghini keys off the desk for his 10 AM meeting across town. Surely, from a purely statistical standpoint, there had to be one person that decided a lifestyle reminiscent of the mid-1800s wasn't what they wanted. I'm surprised there wasn't a 50 Shades of Grey spin-off for the series like there was for Twilight. Spin-off might not be the right word. The politics of Harry Potter are something worth exploring. There's a Ministry of Magic and it has some sort of legal enforcement powers and its own prisons that engage in clearly cruel and inhumane punishments that almost certainly violate the ICCPR. And they claim the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at least is clued into the existence of this society. Magic Society also has its own currency and banking institutions, so they must lend out money and, again, have a currency issuing authority. There are several problems with this. For one, sovereign states like the United Kingdom aren't super happy about another state existing in their territory and arresting people, trying them, imprisoning and torturing them, having a thriving banking sector that pays zero taxes. It also means wizards who aren't well connected to the Muggle world may not have official citizenship in any Muggle nation and are thus stateless persons. People probably used the Cruciatus Curse for some BDSM kinky crap and then someone used it as torture and ruined it for everyone by getting it banned. Unforgivable curse or not, I absolutely guarantee you that there are people who would use the Imperious Curse consensually for BDSM purposes. Even just the description of how it feels to be under that spell reminds me of the subspace mindset that can definitely be a thing in a DS situation. It would probably be pretty hidden, because Unforgivable Curse, but I would have no trouble believing it happened. I imagine at least one werewolf woke up the next morning vomiting bone and hair and scraps of night clothes, then saw that the cage was one charm shy of protecting their loved ones, then killed themselves. Comics to Gian Frown. For sale. Baby shoes. Partly digested. Harry and Hermione spent an awful lot of time in the Deathly Hallows alone, sleeping together in a tent, and both in very vulnerable emotional places. Harry and Hermione spent an awful lot of time in the Deathly Hallows alone, sleeping together in a tent, and both in very vulnerable emotional places. More importantly, neither had much if any alone time for a wank. People using spells that impair others' judgment or knock them out, such as stupefy, to perform kidnappings and rape people. All the weed behind the herbology greenhouses, the popular smart kids coming to their afternoon lesson eating endless amounts of chocolate frogs and biscuits because munchies, having to write home to get your mum to send a few more galleons because your tea have grown out of your uniform, and you're grateful the school shirts are plain white so it saves a bit of money, kissing the cute boy from your house at the Yule Ball, then he pressures you into going further because he's brought his wand and you were trusting enough to leave yours in your room, being constantly terrified of being hit by some spiteful curse from behind because you're the wrong house, racially motivated fights down the leaky cauldron because some idiot can't hold his mead. You've got one dark perspective. Spells can make things explode. No doubt a wizard or two has exploded from an accident or in a duel battle, or like the flying shards of glass from that fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort at the Ministry of Magic. People just cut to pieces and stabbed to death by flying silverware. I'm pretty sure Moaning Myrtle was called Moaning Myrtle for another reason. She locked herself in the bathroom a lot and was really super interested in helping Harry when he was naked in the tub in the movie. Butterbeer is only like 2% alcohol, right? Are students smuggling in other types of booze? What's the drinking age for the wizarding world? Surely some of the kids are involved with drugs too. 2% alcohol could still frick you up pretty hard if you're a skinny 13-year-old drinking it by the pint. Teenage wizards have to seek out Muggle P magazines because spanking it to Wizard P would be weird when the pictures interact with you and judge you. Spoilers for The Cursed Child, not sure if people still care about them, and I'm not sure how canon this is, but oh well. Voldemort had sex, like, full-on sex, and got Bellatrix pregnant. He was about 70 at the time. Even if you say he was revived, he was most likely brought back in his 60-year-old body. I gagged when I first thought about that. I can see why you'd want to bang Tom Riddle, but Voldemort? No thank you. Also, the fact that he was able to get someone pregnant at that age astounds me. Also, a lot of spells could be used to take advantage of muggles very easily, but Voldemort's tongue somehow freaks me out more. We don't talk about Cursed Child. Let's be honest, Hagrid isn't the sharpest knife in the box. Kids probably died on a regular basis because they kept sneaking off to the forest where they were eaten by giant spiders. Points 1 to Dong. Ingorgio Maxima. If you were a magic 13-year-old boy, you would. Let's be honest. At least once. Wouldn't just be the boys making use of it. Madame Pomfrey must have seen some even weirder crap than the books mention. Obviously golems are possible to make, so what kind of monstrosities have some wizards created? I'm sure someone has made a flesh golem or some such at some point. Has anyone gone full necromancer in this regard and created an undead army before? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.